press pause and answer the question.
All right, so here we have a line segment, right? So if you have a graphing calculator with you in the exam and you're allowed to use it in this portion of the exam, you can go ahead and graph it, and you may be able to kind of figure out what the possibilities are, but it's a little bit of a tricky question if you were just to graph it. So here's what it would look like. We have a line segment that has points here at -2, 4, and here at 8, -1. So it's got this line segment. And then we have this other line with the equation y equals 2x minus 5. And I'm not going to draw that one yet. Let's just wait a little bit to draw that. So there are several different types of relationships that these two lines can have. One is the second line could be collinear with the first. In other words, it could be the same line. And that's actually not one of the choices here. One of the choices is it could be parallel to the line segment. But if that was the case, the slope of the two lines would be the same. So if we had a line perpendicular to that, then our slope, when we put it in this kind of y equals mx plus b format, our slope would be, well, first we take the reciprocal of 2, so it would be 1/2, and then we take negative of that number, so it would be -1/2. And then one of the choices is if it does intersect, if the second line that we're looking for intersects the first line at the midpoint, then it's called a bisector. It's a bisector. So it could be some combination of these. It's not going to be perpendicular and parallel, but it could be a bisector only. It could be a bisector that's perpendicular, or it could be a parallel line. All right, let's take a look. So first thing we want to do is let's look to see if it's a bisector of the line. Why do we do that first? Well, it's our first choice here. So the bisector of the line, that means that this line here is going to go through the midpoint of a line segment that connects these 2 points. And to find the midpoint, we can remember the formula, and the formula looks like this, where we're taking x1 plus x2 over 2, and that's the x, and y1 plus y2 over 2, and that's the y. But in some ways, it's easier just to remember it as the average x, comma, the average y. It's the same formula. It's just easy to remember that way because it is a midpoint, right? So we'll take -2 and we'll add it to 8. So we'll take our 2 x's and we'll divide it by 2. And that's going to give us 6 over 2, which is equal to 3. And that means our midpoint is somewhere along this x line. And our y value is going to be the average of 4 and -1. So 4 plus -1 over 2 equals 3 over 2 equals 1.5. All right, so we want to know if it goes through this line 3, 1.5. Now, I'll go ahead and show you what the line would look like on your graphing calculator. This line y equals 2x minus 5, this second line that we're looking at, looks like this. And it kind of looks like maybe it bisects it. If you were to see it on the graphing calculator, it looks like it comes either bisects it or comes very close to it. But in reality, we can check for sure. So if it really bisects it, then there is a point on this line, this y equals 2x minus 5 line. There is going to be a point on that line that is the same point as this line segment's midpoint. So we know the line segment's midpoint is 3, 1.5. So let's plug it in. So we have the formula for the second line is y equals 2x minus 5. And we know our y for the midpoint is 1.5. So 1.5 equals, and we know our x for the midpoint is going to be 3. So 1.5 equals 2 times 3 minus 5. And let's see if that's true. 1.5 equals 6 minus 5. 1.5 equals 1. No, it doesn't. So 1.5 is close to 1, but not quite. So it is not a bisector. So we can throw away these possible answers because Roman numeral 1, lowercase I kind of Roman numeral, that's not going to happen. All right, the next question is it parallel or perpendicular? So let's go ahead and figure out the slope of this first line segment, the first one we were given. And let's see what it looks like relative to the second slope. If it's the same slope, then the two lines are either collinear or parallel. If it's the inverse reciprocal, then we know it's perpendicular. So how do we find out the slope given two lines? Well, you remember it's kind of similar to the midpoint, but not quite. We'll take y2 minus y1 divided by x2 minus x1. So in our case, we'll just make this 0.1 since it was given first, and we'll make this 0.2 since it was given second. So y2 is negative 1 minus y1, so minus 4, and that's our y2 minus y1. And then we'll take our x2, which is this number here, 8, and we'll subtract a negative 2 from it. That's our x1. And we'll work that out, and negative 1 minus negative 4 is negative 5, and 8 plus 2 is 10. So that's equal to negative 1/2. So that's our slope. That's our slope of this particular line segment, right? So we can just, draw the little slope triangle like that. So now if we look at our line, that's got a slope of 2. So one's got a slope of 2 and one's got a slope of negative 1/2. That's negative the reciprocal. And so we know it is perpendicular. And that's why the correct answer is this one, that it is perpendicular to the line segment.